Okay, doke. We don't have. I don't want to, waste precious time that you will spend with us on a webinar. So let's go straight away and start slides. So what I have for you these days today is to faster backup for oVirt with the CBT strategy. It's quite impressive. I'm really excited to tell about the changeblock tracking functionality in the latest oVirt version 4.4. As you already know, hopefully you know, in the last release 4.4, the oVirt community released the CBT with as a technical preview. So it means that we are ready and set to use this functionality, but we are officially still waiting for the GA. I know that there are some things for the improvement, especially in the CBT, but the good news, we have this feature. So everybody who's using the oVirt environments in the infrastructure, they can leverage this functionality since version 4.4. Few words about myself. My name is Paweł Mączka. I'm CTO and VP at Storware, and today I'm privileged to guide you through what's new with this strategy and how we cope with this strategy with our product called Storware vProtect. So it's important to start a few slides because maybe some of you haven't heard about us yet. Or hopefully most of you already using our software to provide the oVirt or the other hypervisor backup and recovery. But I need to go through the few slides just to remind what's the architecture and how the software actually looks like and what is the feature set. Then I will mention, of course, because it's a major topic about the changeblock tracking functionality. And I will present the two core features like backup workflow and restore workflow, how we implemented inside. Because what I believe and what I talk with my development, there are a few flavors how you can cope with the CBT strategy from the API SDK perspective. Then you need to keep in mind that not only the CBT strategy is the one strategy that you can use it. We have a different flavors, different old. Some of it's really old strategies like export storage domains. I will present it, and you will see what kind of the strategies you can apply even today for your existing oVirt environments. Then a little bit about the features itself, live demo and QA. Of course, if you will have any questions during the presentation, during the live demo, do not hesitate to ask straight away on the chat. I'm here for you to answer all of the questions. So, let's start from the beginning. The vProtect is made for the backup and recovery for different technology shops, especially for the oVirt, because we have most of our activities are related to the KVM-based hypervisors, and the oVirt is, of course, one of those hypervisors that we are like the most, and we're doing lots of effort to make the oVirt backup and recovery as easy as possible, as unique as possible, and as scalable as possible. We've seen that many other vendors do not treat this hypervisor so seriously. We, as a Storware and the vProtect team, want to change it and doing lots of effort to make our software even better from the backup and recovery, especially for the backup and recovery operation. But you also see that there's not only about the oVirt, there's also other hypervisors that we are supporting these days, like even Kubernetes. So we have a containers world, like RHV from the Red Hat, OLVM, Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So oVirt with the maintenance from the different vendors like Red Hat or the Oracle. But you can also see the OpenStack, the Proxmox, so different KVM, Nutanix, Acropolis flavors, but also VMware and the Hyper-V. And we are really glad to see that we are only one of the two vendors today who supporting such a variety of different hypervisors. Actually, the question for you to a little bit shake up your attention is: was the second backup vendor which has this kind of the feature compatibility matrix for those kind of the hypervisors? I'm wondering if you know the answer. I don't want to go who's better these days, especially for the oVirt, but I'm curious if you will find other player who has this set of the feature. Okay, 6 things which is important. We're talking about the agentless, full, and incremental backup, especially with the CBT. Keep in mind that we had an incremental backup before the CBT arrives. We've been waiting even 3 years for this functionality. So that's why I said that we are quite excited to have it on board. But also we're talking about snapshot management, application backup. And the good news is that you can choose if you would like to store the data on-premise, for example, on your local storage, or you would like to use the object storages or even other backup vendors like IBM, Dell, or Veritas to store the backup. Then vProtect works as a proxy virtual machine or the proxy host, which gives the data from different hypervisors to the specific workloads. Important is that you can use the RESTful API not only for the UI perspective, but also for automate or the orchestrate or the reporting everything, even in your portal or the integration with the third-party platforms. Architecture on the left, supported hypervisors. On the right, this is what I said, different types of the storages where you can store your backups. It's important part that you will know that vProtect is separated into 2 separate components. In the middle, you can see the node. There's 3 nodes as an example here. And each node is actually the data mover, which connects to the oVirt environments via the API or the SSH. Depends on the different architecture and the different strategy that I will talk about a little bit later. And there's a server who is actually manage and orchestrate one node or the several nodes with this dedicated catalog. So our database, we're using the MariaDB to store in the backup, the catalog of all of the metadata data. And we have 2 options to scale up. So we can add always more resources, or we can scale out by adding new nodes. Many times we have a question, okay, how many nodes we should use it? In a small environments like 2, actually 5, 10 host, you can easily leverage by the one node installation. It's not even about the number of the hosts, but number of the VMs and number of the daily ingestions that we need to go through the daily backup. So if we're talking about 10, 15 terabytes, we could easily go with the one. But if you're talking about tens or hundreds of the terabytes, definitely it's worth to consider more than one node to simultaneously work and grab the data from the oVirt cluster. Changelog tracking. The goal for the CBT is to, of course, the leverage and speed up the backups, because we didn't have the option before CBT to use the magic to only grab the changelog trackings. So as a base, CBT allows you to capture only the change blocks since the last backup occurred. Of course, we started from the full, then we can go and build the increments. I'm not advising you yet to go into the incremental forever approach. It's a little bit early for this to make the commitment that let's go for it and do not take another full. We're still considering, even with the CBT, to close every week with the full. We do feel much more confident with this approach, having the duplication appliances on the vProtect side, or even using the VDO, Virtual Data Optimizer, and do not keeping too long chain of the CBT. It's too early, so still I'll advise to do not go into the incremental forever approach. Important that it's working only for the raw or cookout 2 disk. In most cases, we will leverage by cookout 2, and restore raw or the cookout 2. You will see in our raw workflow how we convert this format to the specific, especially cookout 2. Okay, vProtect backup workflow. If we're using CBT, of course, we have a full and incremental approach. Only allocated blocks in a full are considered to be taken, so without zeros, and only change block if we're talking about the incremental. If you will go deep dive, you will know that the CBT strategy use the image IO client to find and to find the change blocks. We do not using the image IO client, so this is the major difference in our strategy. We written by our own the method to cope with, to find the specific changes and send it to the vProtect itself. And let's go through the workflow. Hopefully it's visible for you how the process looks like. So first, we're doing always the backup job is separated into the two tasks. First task is the export. So we contacting through, and it's only right now for the Cookout 2 format. So we going through the oVirt SDK and saying, hey, I would like to have a full. If I'm doing a full, I'm connecting to the SDK, generating backup for every and caption the image for every disk which is attached to the specific VM. Then I create the image transfer. So we're using the image transfer API to grab this data. So we divided each disk into the separate image. And then if we have a full, we capturing and using the image IO to transfer all of the backups. Then if we store in the backup on a vProtect node side, then we start in the store operations. So the second task, which will applies to storing the backup into the specific backup destination that we are already configured, which I said, it can be file system, it can be object storage, or the third-party backup vendor, such as IBM Veritas or the Dell. If we're talking about restore, it's, because we already made it happen into our strategy, so you don't see what actually is going and what's going on behind the scenes. But let's see what actually the vProtect does with the API. So first, we need to choose from which point in time we would like to come back. We merge, and it's important. We merge always the full with all of the incrementals. So merging all of the changes and the CBT files, we convert the raw image to the Cookout 2 format, and then we start in the import task. So sending the data from the node into the specific host that is applying for the data restoration. Then we create in the VM disk by the oVirt SDK. Then we upload the image using the image IO, finalize the transfer, and we are ready to start our VMs. If we're doing the restoration on demand or the recovery plans, you will see both scenarios. Keep in mind, so in a short, you don't need to care about, so this is the most lightweight way how to cope with the incrementals. You have only the change blocks. So this will be in the next months, in most cases, our recommendation to use the incremental backup. But you need to keep in mind that still there are 4 different strategies that we already applied into the oVirt world using the vProtect. And this strategy is working in the last 4 years in hundreds of the different implementation that we made worldwide on our customers. And this is the SSH transfer. So we go in directly by the SSH, contacting each host and sending the data via SSH or using a netcat. There is a disk attachment, disk image transfer API, still the oldest one, but we still have some customers running the Red Hat Enterprise virtualization, so not RHV, but RHEV, with the version 3 using the expert storage domain. And what I said, in the next 6 to 12 months, I believe most of the distributions from 4.4 plus will go into this strategies. But I believe in some cases we will still use our own SSH transfer, because this is today what we noticed, and we use it in the most biggest implementation, that we have a 100 host plus, where we straight away contacting via the SSH, and we grabbing and we comparing the changes, and we have an option to do an incremental and send this incremental by the SSH straight away to the node. Disk attachment is also really efficient way that we mount in the disk, and we can use the fiber channel transfer to cope with the backups. Disk image transfer, it's the only bottlenecks, and you need to keep in mind that all of the data is going through the oVirt manager. So it's especially from the restoration point. So this is not, we use this strategy, but in most cases we're using the SSH and the CBT. This is what I said. And the oldest one, using the export storage domain. I hope that all of you have a version 4 plus, or even 4.3, 4.4, which allows you also to use our dedicated plugin for the backup and restoration processes. And change block tracking, this is what I said. We're using the in the SDK, we're using the data image transfer, also API, to communicate by the SDK. But here we also calling API and taking the changing block straight away from the hypervisor. So it's really close to our SSH strategy. Okay, guys, so let's go through the few features that we always trying to visualize and remind what's the feature set in vProtect. First of all, if you have hundreds or even thousands of the VMs, you don't need to worry about how to automate, assign the specific VMs to the policies. It's made by dedicated tags, so you can tag your VM with the specific name, which will automate and assign VM to the vProtect policy. Or you can use the regular expressions by the naming, to saying, okay, every machine that's starting with the Storware, or every machine with prod dat something will goes and automatically assign to the specific policy. And the policies in vProtect saying when the backup should be done and where this backup should be stored. Keep in mind that always, if we do not QoS and use the tools, we're talking about the crash consistent backup. So if you have the application or the transaction or databases inside the VM, keep in mind that you can use the dedicated application backup to go through the SSH inside VM and have the option to QoS the application, do a snapshot, or even use the pre and the post scripts method before the backup or the snapshot will be done. So application backup is allowing us to not only protect physical machines or even the database, catalog database from the oVirt. I will show you the example how the ready templates are working, but also this is the option to cope with any type of the application which we actually can or shut down or QoS by any scripts that we can do that create the generic custom scripts provided by administrator. What we most care about in the latest releases and what we have a plan for the 21 is to doing more into the recovery plans. Recovery plans allows you to automate not only the backup but the restoration part. It's a great option to set it up the rules that once a week I would like to recover this specific types of the VMs into my production or into my secondary cluster. We right now considering to go even deeper, to have the health check operation. So not only the restore operation done by recovery plan, but also have a checkpoint that, okay, if I already restored the machine, let's go inside and see if my most of the application on the services working properly and give this information back to our console. Okay, application backup. I don't want to kill you by the number of the slides. Let's go to the live demo. We're using the version 4, so keep in mind that there's a little bit changes in the UI. So maybe if you saw the version 3, like 3.9.2, even the month ago, that was a little bit, we did a little bit changes in the left menu to even more simplify the way how to cope with daily operation. We go into the virtual environments, go into the infrastructure, and first what we need to do is to always add the oVirt cluster. It's done by just going to the, let's try to add hypervisor manager. We're using the oVirt 4. You need to always use the proper URL, admin, and the password. And here you have a space to choose a specific strategy. You can see right now for disk attachment, disk image transfer, SSH, change back tracking as a technical preview. We don't have export domain because the export domain is always in the version 3. There is no choice. So we have 5 strategies. Okay. Let's see. I already connect. So we have oVirt 4.4, Storware, local, oVirt engine API. So keep in mind that you should have a proper path, always using the oVirt engine API. We choose already the change back tracking. Great. What we need to do after we adding, we are using the synchronization inventory. It means that we need to run a task which collect all of the data from the API and inform the vProtect what type of the VMs running of my cluster. Let's see, where is it? This is our website. Let's see on a dashboard. Do we have any VMs here? Okay, there are some VM8. I see there's some Alpine VM2. Let's find this machine here. Okay, so inventory, it's still running. Dope. Number of the hosts, there are 2 hosts. There are 24 virtual machines. I can see this list of these VMs. So what basically we're always doing is we can back it up on demand, but keep in mind that you can never protect using, if you have even the CBT strategy, you cannot use the incremental backup unless you will add this specific VM to the incremental schedule. Like here, VM app has no backup policy with the incremental schedule assigned. So what we need to do, I will just clone the name of this VM. I need to go to the backup SLA. Need to go to the specific policy. You can see that there's a quite huge demo with the different flavors. Let me find my RHV oVirt VM strategy. Go to the virtual machines. Let me find the specific VM. Yep, we have an Alpine VM2 from the hypervisor. Let's save it. Let's find this again, this machine from here, Alpine VM2. It's already changed the status that I don't have a backup, or backup is outdated. Before I assign to the policy, it doesn't matter for me because it's not scheduled. So I don't need to care about this VM because it's already in a policy. I should treat it, and it will also reporting the statuses if it's protected or not. I can use the incremental, but of course it will start with the full. I will use the full, will be easier. Okay, the jobs. The export started. Let's go on the oVirt side, see If anything goes, something goes here, snapshot. There are some information not necessarily important for us. Let's wait. Still active VMs. We need to a little bit patience here. Let's first full it's running. In the meantime, I will show you how to automate the backups by using the recovery plans. I still encourage most of my customers to use it more because you know that the pain in the neck, let's say, is to forgetting about to validate the restoration processes. So keep in mind that the recovery plans allowing you to build, create policy, oVirt. Recovery plan policy, which inside we are allowing to create the different rules, and each rule can be applied to the different hypervisor. In this case, we are of course caring about the oVirt our 4.4 version. I'm still care about this Alpine VM. I can schedule that we would like to use a weekly recovery, and we can consider and set it up dedicated schedules for the recovery plans, not only for the backup but for the recoveries, and of course a bunch of the options how to restore it. Shall we use always the last backup successful, or regardless the status we should take care of the backups? I'm always trying to use this one. It's much more rigoristic and gives you the failed operation if something happens with the latest change of the snapshot. Option to restore to the file system manager or to the file system. I encourage to use, of course, hypervisor managers because straight away you can see generate the VM. And we introduce the prefixes, webinar, CBT, CBT, webinar, pre-allocated paths. I will not change anything, and I will power on the machine after it will goes. I forget about name. Production. Save it. Okay. oVirt recovery plan, execute recovery plan. Let's see what happens here. Store, nice one. FS01, okay, got it. Let's do another operation like Alpine VM2. Let's do the incremental. There we go. If anything change here, nothing, so we still have it empty. The difference is when we're using the CBT, you don't see the chains of the incremental snapshots. When you're using the different strategy, you always have some latest vProtect snapshot named by vProtect. If you're using CBT, as you see, the list is totally empty. Okay. What about the incremental? That was fast, and it's supposed to be fast because we haven't changed anything. Yep. Let's go inside. Alpine VM2. Backup size 2 gig. Backup history. There's only one disk. There is a story. Let me see it. Yep. I need to refresh. 2 minutes, 49 seconds for the first full. then we needed only 12 seconds to grab the change block from our VMs, and only 224 kilobytes were sent by the vProtect. The backup time, some statistics about the restoration we haven't yet. Keep in mind, we also introduced in the latest release some gathering statistic about some time frame, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc., to even easier visualize what you need to see or analyze. Okay, restoration part, we can do it manually, or I can start, I believe, my recovery plan that I already created. I will execute, run. Of course, I did on demand, but if I have enough time, and you will have enough time to sit with me till Sunday, then at 10 a.m. it could start straight away automatically to our environment restoration. Let's see the restore. It's already done. So it's supposed to be somewhere here. But also keep in mind that there is a VM backup virtual machines. So we have dedicated UI plugin that allows you to go find specific VM, and from the oVirt UI you have the option to backup, to choose a backup destination, etc., like without jumping between the UIs. And we've seen that more and more customers are definitely going with this approach to have everything in single pane of glass, to working smoothly. Task console, still the export operation, the import operation is working, so it's still waiting for the restoration process. Supposed to export supposed to be finished. Okay. More details, do not hesitate to keep in mind that if you haven't used the vProtect, you can always start your journey by playing the free version that is giving you the option to use the 10 VM without any limitation. The only feature that we do not apply is the integration with the IBM, Veritas, or the Dell ecosystem. But if talking about object storages, all the file system, all the feature set, including the CBT and the 4 different strategies are available in the free version. You just need to go to the Storware EU licenses, vProtect, and fill the form and start to play on your home lab or your, for example, production. We have lots of customers who are using them, the biggest VMs using the free version. Example customers, like I said, we're talking right now about the hundreds of the different customers. We don't know how many free versions still running, but we believe we are close to the 1,000. And there are some examples. We are right now existing, and we have customers from more than 16 different countries. So if you are interested to get more information, details about ourselves, just go or read about our documentation, which you can find on a Gitbook. You just need to provide the vProtect documentation in a Google, and you will find everything which is supposed to give you the answers. If you will not find it, just go on one of the social media or contact us straight away through the web browser, our website, Storware EU, to get more information. We're quite active on a social media, especially on a LinkedIn, Facebook, on a Twitter. But of course, every webinar like today will also be on a YouTube for the wider audience to have an option to watch it. Okay. Do you have any questions? So there is a great time at this point to ask. Do not hesitate. Feel free. HP Cree, you can see the screen, thank you. I haven't seen the chat before, so I just started to read right now. Do you integrate with the enterprise application? Like I said, we have agentless data protection. It means that we can connect to the Oracle, DB2 or whatever application do not natively by the agent, but like, contacting the airman and grabbing the stream and the files straight away to the vProtect. So it's still agentless. It's not, it allows you and demands from you to using more than the script way or the dedicated templates that we prepared, but we don't have the dedicated agents for the application today, and we don't have plans yet. We're trying to be as agentless as possible. No worries, thank you. Keep in mind that if you have the application on a virtual machine, you can always use the pre and the post script method to QoS the application, doing a snap, and the post, unfreeze and unfreeze the app. Okay, I have a plan to grab and steal you 40 minutes. It's exactly 40 minutes that we spent together. I hope you enjoy the presentation. And if you have anything that you can see the space where we can help, do not hesitate to contact my team. That was a Storware webinar related to the CBT strategy, the latest feature that was introduced in the oVirt 4.4. My name is Paweł Mączka, and I was privileged to have and spend the time with you. Thank you for your attention. Have a great day. Stay in touch and stay safe.